Thank you everyone for joining here today. Today I'm going to talk about effective KOL management. My name is Sonali Pandey. I have PhD in molecular biology. I'm currently a medical science liaison with EMAC Pharmaceutical in hematology oncology space. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about KOL identification, strategies to initiate these KOL relationships, and then strategies to develop and maintain these KOL relationships. At the end, we will have questions and answers. So the question you might ask is, who are the KOLs in my therapeutic area and how do I find them? So the KOLs, as discussed in earlier presentation, they are influential thought leaders in the field. They are invited to give presentations at conferences, they published articles, they are involved in clinical trials, they are involved in investigator-initiated studies. Sometimes they also conduct basic research that has impact in improving knowledge of the disease state, understanding how the disease progresses, or what can we do to improve treatment options for that disease. They are also like supporting and providing or they're speakers at patient advocacy organization. They make decisions on the treatment guidelines for specific institution or organization, and they could be medical directors, they could be speakers for other companies, and those are some of the things you want to review when you are trying to understand who are the KOLs in your specific therapeutic area. Then the next question is, how do I find them? Some of the resources that I have used and a lot other MSLs use are such as conferences. These are the people, they present their research or they are involved in presenting the research that is done by their colleagues at conferences. They're invited to give specific talks. Then the second one is institutional website, and I am based out of US, so I wanted to give you an example. So for an example, I went to Lilavati Hospital Mumbai website, and I looked up in the space of oncology the healthcare provider's profile, and I also found that along with that healthcare provider's profile, you can find out what all awards that person has won, what kind of research publication, case reports they have presented, and based on that information, you can make a decision or at least see whether or not this person qualifies as an KOL. And that would lead to your first interaction and meeting with them. And through that conversation, you can finalize whether or not you want to continue discussion with this person, whether or not he or she is a KOL. Some other resources that you can use to find KOL is published literature. Who are the people that are publishing in great journals, like it was mentioned in the previous presentation. Also, sometimes when you are interacting with one healthcare provider, they might say, I always get advice from Dr. So-and-so. He's the person who provides talks at our hospital, at our conference, and provides us information about new therapies. So is something that you can look for. And one more is patient advocacy organizations. Patient advocacy organizations might have directors on their board that are involved in educational programs. Those could be considered as KOLs as well. So these are some of the avenues that you can use to identify who are the KOLs and start interacting with those KOLs or start reaching out to those KOLs. This is a great slide, and I have listed the reference below. You can check their website. They mention what are the main roles of KOLs. And as I mentioned earlier, researching the disease state, developing new therapies, advocating the treatment approaches, formulary decisions, and deciding healthcare policies as well as guidelines. And these KOLs that they can have interest in their clinical research. They could be from academia. They might be involved in clinical trials. They're definitely influencers in their field, and they could be doctors, they could be nurses, pharmacists, healthcare authorities, or payers. So the KOLs will be different based on the disease stage you are supporting, like oncology or rheumatology or any other disease state. Also, the KOLs would be different based on the product life cycle that you are supporting. And this is again the great uh, information I took from this website that is listed downstairs, Doxplex. It shows the KOL's world, and there are different factors they play an important role. The KOL is involved in providing services to the hospital. They are involved in interacting with MSLs. They're involved in providing talks at various conferences. So you have to understand what motivates them. You have to understand what is their role in their institution. Are they doing specific research? Are they involved in developing certain guidelines? And that would give you a better idea how to approach them, how to provide them value, how to develop that relationship going forward. So that brings us to the strategies to initiate KOL relationship. The number one strategy is education on the roles and responsibilities of an MSL, especially in India. I saw that there were certain questions whether MSL is same like a salesperson. And as an MSL, it would be your responsibility to provide that specific information. What is the MSL? What is the role of an MSL? What does a medical affairs professional do? How it is separate from commercial? What are some of the activities that medical affairs professional can do and commercial counterparts cannot, and that would lead to developing credibility. Once you have developed that credibility, it would help you later on in continuing that relationship forward. So when you're meeting with your KOL for the first time, the important thing is to ask questions to get to know them, what motivates them, what are their priorities. That would help you guide the decision as well as discussion forward during later meetings. Understanding KOL needs. Does the KOL involve in any particular study? Are they interested in having discussion like a certain publication that came out recently, or are they interested in providing education? So you have to understand what their needs are, and the understanding will come from asking right questions, asking and listening to what they have to say. Also, this is also an opportunity to communicate value. What that means is, as a medical affairs profession, what can you bring to them? That means you have to communicate your values, such as I am here as a medical affairs resource. I will be involved or responsible for providing any update that you need or that you require in the disease state, as well as therapeutic area options. You can ask me questions if you are interested in learning about the clinical trial data as well as new development in the field. Is that something you want from me on a regular basis? And the communicating value part will come into picture when you're asking the right questions and understanding their needs. Then the next one is open as well as continuous scientific dialogue. And it goes back to having that peer to peer relationship with the KOL. They need to look at you as a scientific resource equal to them, not above, not below, just like a equal colleague, and should be able to reach out to you, ask question, as well as provide you some of their thoughts on the disease state or on the drug they're using, and that will lead to that open and continuous specific dialogue. Understanding knowledge gap is the next one that I put in here. It could be understanding knowledge gap in that specific KOL's knowledge, or in general, the knowledge gap in the disease state. What I mean by that is understanding from the conversation, does that particular person require more information on certain pathway that is happening in certain cancer because they are not aware of it, or based on the conversation that you're having with the KOL, do you understand that there is certain pathway in that particular cancer type that is not yet investigated, and you can bring this information back to the company, and then company might decide to focus their attention on that specific pathway to gain more understanding, to find therapeutic options. That also called gathering insight. So when you are interacting with these healthcare professionals, with these KOLs, you are understanding from them that what are the challenges they face in this field, what are the challenges they face when they're treating patients or when they are interacting with other healthcare professionals, what are they finding out that considered as a knowledge gap in the field. And you can gather those insights, bring it back to the company. That's one of the major responsibilities of a medical science liaison or MSL. So that brings us to what are the strategies to develop and maintain those KOL relationships. So yes, you have developed a KOL, you have started the KOL relationship, you had an introductory meeting that went really well. How are you going to continue developing those relationships? So it is very important to have a KOL specific engagement plan. For example, one person might be interested in becoming speaker for your company. You will have to have a different kind of discussion with that specific person. The second person might be interested in doing some kind of case report. You will need to have a very different discussion with that person going forward. So having a specific engagement plan will be critical in continuing those conversations. Scheduling timely follow up, just asking them, would you like me to follow up with you every few months? How would you like to interact with me? Do you prefer me reaching out to you via email or phone call, or reaching out to the assistant at your office? And clearing these things early on can help you uh, provide value as well as be efficient in your work. I mentioned insight gathering earlier, and I want to touch upon that a little bit. Insight gathering as well as scientific discussion based on the phase of the product. So if the product is pre-launch, you're mostly talking about the disease state, how the disease is caused, what are some of the things you can do to what is the standard of care currently for that specific disease state, what is the new or what are the clinical trials that are going on. When it comes to the second part, launch, when the drug is currently or recently launched, you might be talking about the disease state, responsive activities, and insight gathering. What I mean by responsive activities is when they have a scientific question that the salespeople cannot answer or shouldn't answer, it gets triaged to you, and you are responsible for answering their scientific question that they have. That is called responsive activity. And in certain cases, the activities are post-launch. The product is launched, it has been in the market for a couple of years or few years, and you are still responsible for answering their questions. You're gathering insights, you're identifying knowledge gaps. Also, you're gathering competitive intelligence. And what I mean by that is there might be more than one companies working in that specific space, and it is your responsibility to understand what is going on, what are some of the strategies other companies are using, what are some of the clinical trials that are doing, what is your company doing, and bring it back to your internal stakeholders, internal colleagues. Identifying potential KOLs for various activities that are being conducted. For example, identifying KOLs that could be good speakers, that could be part of the advisory board. They could do investigator-initiated trials. Or they're involved, or they want to publish an article in collaboration with your company. So you would know these things when you continue that relationship as well as interact with them frequently. As far as advisory board is concerned, advisory board is basically company invites multiple different KOLs. For example, let's say cardiology, cardiologists from different part of the country or different part of the territory that you're supporting, and ask them questions. What are the challenges are you facing when it comes to treating specific type of patients? What kind of data would you like to see in order to make better decisions about providing care to your patients? What are some of the clinical trials you would like to see in this field? And you, as a company, is trying to understand the knowledge gap that exists by having these advisory boards. The advisory boards are important because they gather the important information from healthcare providers, from key opinion leaders that are at forefront and that are treating patients, that are understanding what is going on and what can we do to improve patient care for these patients. Another important part is embracing KOL feedback. It is absolutely important. If they provide you feedback, you have to work on upon it, and you have to take actions. For example, if they think that the information you're providing is not sufficient, you have to be a better resource. If they're saying this is something your company can do, that would be helpful to us, you have to bring that feedback back to the company. And the last part is developing KOL network via established relationship. As it was mentioned earlier by Nandan, established relationship as well as collaborations is absolutely critical for success of your role as a medical science liaison. And that is the last step I wanted to share. So thank you so much for listening, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts with you. Thank you so much, and floor is open for